You and I, dear viewer, and everyone else are witnessing a transition like no other. The cosmic hour hand approaches midnight on a clock that measures time in millennia rather than hours. Although 12, or rather 13, are also the numbers at play here. The Age of Pisces, that 2,000-year epoch where martyrs bled for salvation, where fishermen became apostles, where sin and redemption danced their eternal tango across cathedrals and crusades, across inquisitions and illuminations, now wanes like an exhausted moon, while Aquarius rises before your eyes with revolutionary fervor, visionary clarity, and future-bearing promise. The water-bearer comes not with gentle rain, but with the deluge of transformation, not unlike that moment when you first realized your childhood heroes were merely mortals in impressive costumes, except this time, the disillusionment brings not despair, but possibility without precedent. Jung himself felt the weight of this transition, writing, "Considering the terrible time in which we are living, it reminds me of those dark centuries when the culture of antiquity was gradually falling into decay. Now, once again we are in a time of decay and transition. The vernal equinox is moving out of the sign of Pisces into the sign of Aquarius." The passing from Pisces to Aquarius is not distant, my friend. It is a monumental astronomical and astrological shift that will stir the wheels of our collective consciousness in unimaginable ways. A celestial transformation Carl Jung explored with both awe and trepidation. You're living through it right now with every breath, every decision, and every moment of awareness in these extraordinary times. What awaits you in this new age? Utopia or dystopia? Revolution or revelation, abundance or emptiness, perhaps all of these. I believe the Age of Aquarius will show us who we truly are, who I truly am, who you truly are. The answer, seeker of wisdom, depends on you and each one of us far more than most people realize. Your consciousness is not separate from the cosmos. Thus, our exploration begins now with you at its center. I am Irevelato. I reveal the secrets you deserve to know, the lives and stories of gods and luminaries, millennial wisdom, brilliant thinkers, creators, the black spiritual swans for which there are few eyes to see. The name of the game is obsessive interdisciplinarity. The only direction is acceleration. The only solution is to master how to steer the wheels. I offer you the keys to mystery doors you need to study on your own. I don't want you to believe anything I say. I want you to start asking questions and being curious and creative with what you acquire in your development, because your role is just as important as mine is. Never forget that the best teachers teach you how to think. Never forget that the best teachers are learners. Never forget that it is your responsibility to be both a learner and a teacher. So welcome, take a seat and allow me to reveal the Age of Aquarius. Look closely at your life, thoughtful one. Notice how you mark time, birthdays, anniversaries, New Year's, decades. These measurements reveal something incredibly significant about you, about all humanity. We all have an irrepressible need to mark time in cycles. Jung recognized this pattern in civilizations across the globe, in Hindu yugas spanning millions of years, in Zoroastrian world periods, in Mesoamerican calendars. One cannot help but seek patterns in chaos and meaning in the march of centuries. The universe is meant to be recursive and observe itself through itself. The Ouroboros keeps eating its tail. The propensity of the human system to form such conceptions as the world periods of the Parsis, the yugas and avatars of Hinduism, and the Platonic months of astrology, Jung observed, is worldwide. The truth is that our intuitive understanding that time isn't simply linear, but rather breathes, pulses, vibrates, oscillates, moves, bends, and transforms, is on point. When you sense that something's in the air during cultural shifts, you're feeling the cosmic watch ticking. L'air du temps is not something French people said to sound smarter. The same is true with zeitgeist, the same with eons. Jung called these cosmic epochs Platonic months, vast too, 100-year periods corresponding to each zodiac sign, a concept less mystical than astronomical, tracking Earth's celestial wobble as our axis traces its ponderous circle through the heavens like a cosmic drunk trying to find his way home. moving 1 degree every 72 years, roughly a human lifetime, as if each generation gets to witness only a single frame of this grand celestial film, completing a full cycle in nearly 26,000 years. It is a time span so vast that when the last Aquarian age dawned, humans were painting bison on cave walls and arguing about whether this new fire trend would really catch on. You might also ask, when does Aquarius begin? Jung calculated possibilities, writing in Ion. Astrologically, the beginning of the next eon, according to the starting point you select, falls between AD 2000 and 2200, starting from star O, and assuming a Platonic month of 2,143 years, one would arrive at AD 2154 for the beginning of the Aquarian age, and at AD 1997 if you start from star A113. The latter date agrees with the longitude of the stars in Ptolemy's Almagest. This uncertainty reflects the gradual and overlapping nature of cosmic transitions. But think of your own pivotal moments throughout your life. Perhaps your contemplative or silent times. Were they clean breaks or messy overlaps? Did you become an adult at precisely midnight on your 18th birthday? Did you transition from student to professional in a single moment? Or was there a gradual, sometimes disorienting period when you were both at once? We are all at once. So it is with cosmic ages. They don't switch with the flip of a calendar page. They bleed into one another, creating decades and even centuries of liminality. And we are in the liminal zone. You, fortunate witness, live in that in-between space now. You breathe both Piscean and Aquarian air. You swim in the waters of both ages. You feel the tension of dissolution and becoming. Imagine yourself, if you will, looking up at the night sky. Picture the figure there, a human form pouring water from a vessel into the cosmos, an observant pouring, a deliberate gesture, revolutionary, generous, intentional, purposeful. The paradox should not escape your notice. Though classified as an air sign placed in the numinous sphere of intellect, ideas and abstraction, Aquarius carries water, traditional symbol of emotion and the unconscious. What might this contradiction tell you about you? Well, it suggests that the rational mind is in service to humanitarian ideals. Aquarius is intellect directed toward collective betterment. The water-bearer is compelled to distribute everything to everyone, freely for all. A single gesture that contains multitudes. Dissemination, democratization, the free flow of information. Pouring water in so we can flow in the world of ideas. The world of Aquarius is not concerned with boundaries, but with putting into practice everything we have learned so far at maximum speed. We have time to fix mistakes. We don't have time for sleep, however. Look around you, perceptive friend. Aquarian signs are everywhere. When you share your knowledge freely online, when you contribute to a wiki, when you participate in open source software development, you perform an Aquarian gesture. When you bypass traditional gatekeepers to publish your thoughts directly to the world, you perform the revolutionary act of pouring waters to nourish the collective. You want to think together with the collective quickly and sharply, like a waterfall from the sky. Ptolemy, that ancient astrologer whose Tetrabiblos formed the foundation of Western astrology, described Aquarius with striking prescience. The stars in the shoulders of Aquarius operate like Saturn and Mercury. Those in the left hand and in the face do the same. This dual influence captures the sign's essence. Disciplined intellect, Saturn, in service to communication and connection, Mercury. Consider how this duality manifests in your world today. The dance of Saturn and Mercury permeates your digital reality. Structured protocols of the internet forming rigid scaffolding upon which fluid communication flows like quicksilver. Binary architectures of silicon and logic gates somehow birthing boundless creativity, much like how Shakespeare created Hamlet using merely 26 letters, though admittedly with fewer cat videos. Algorithms of social media, the invisible prison wardens of attention, paradoxically unleashing unprecedented social movements that topple dictators from their thrones while we scroll half-naked through our feeds at 2 a.m., wondering if anyone truly sees us. Yes, they see you. It's all a live show for the stakeholders. Ancient astrologers called Aquarius fixed air. Air that maintains direction despite resistance. stubborn adherence to principles, sometimes evolving into dogmatism. So never trust what I say. I want you to think. So let's think. Have you noticed, thoughtful observer, how digital ideologies can calcify? How quickly the revolutionary becomes the orthodox? How disruption itself becomes a rigid doctrine? The sign has two rulers. Traditionally, Saturn, which embodies structure, limitation, and discipline. Yet modern astrology would also state that Uranus is the planet of Aquarius. Revolution, disruption, and sudden awakening, in a way much more fitting for the Aquarian nature. And as an Aquarius, I must confess, without suggesting a generality, that I do feel more drawn towards Uranus rather than Saturn. But there is definitely a tension between stability and revolution that defines our era. Jung recognized this duality. Aquarius contains both tremendous creative potential and destructive force, a capacity for unprecedented progress alongside the danger of rigid ideology. The vessel pours water to nourish. It could also pour fire to consume and air to intensify the fire. Which will you choose to channel, dear impartial and individual observer? Transitions between the eons always seem to have been melancholy and despairing times, as for instance the collapse of the Old Kingdom in Egypt between Taurus and Aries, or the melancholy of the Augustinian age between Aries and Pisces. Jung's words should give you shivers on your spine because the sights are not optimistic ones. He saw these grand transitions as inherently traumatic, periods of dissolution. Old structures crumble before new ones fully form. What does this mean, this erosion? The erosion of traditional institutions, the crisis of authority in religion, government, science, the disorientation of post-truth discourse. These are the birth pangs of a new age. Jung pointed to historical examples, the collapse of Egypt's Old Kingdom during the Taurus-Aries transition and the melancholy of the Augustinian age as Pisces displaced Aries. During that last great shift, Rome fell. Christianity rose. Classical knowledge retreated to monasteries and distant Baghdad. Europeans wandered among the ruins of a once mighty civilization, unable to replicate its achievements and accumulate from all their ancestors. Birth is painful, wise observer. You feel it in your bones, in your anxiety about the future, in your sense that something monumental is shifting beneath your feet. And now we are moving into Aquarius, Jung warned, of which the Sibylline Books say, Luciferi vires accendit Aquarius acres. Aquarius inflames the savage forces of Lucifer. And we are only at the beginning of this apocalyptic development. Look around you, brothers and sisters. Witness the polarization that transforms Thanksgiving dinners into ideological battlegrounds where Uncle Frank and Cousin Sarah recreate the Civil War using cranberry sauce as blood. Observe the fragmentation of shared reality into tribal information bubbles where facts flex like carnival mirrors. Behold technologies leaping forward while ethics crawls behind like the tortoise who forgot there was even a race. These are not isolated phenomena but convergent symptoms of one great transition. Reminiscent of that moment, Rome realized those barbarians weren't simply visiting but had come to redecorate the empire permanently. However, our current transition represents what Jung called an apocalyptic epoch, containing seeds of a different, unprecedented, and still inconceivable future. He anticipated that our emerging era would differ as dramatically from the 20th century as the 20th differed from the 19th. You have to thoughtfully consider if our exponential technological advances have not caused equally fundamental shifts in consciousness. At the heart of Jung's vision lies a singular challenge for you, dear seeker: integration of opposites. If, as seems probable, the eon of the fishes is ruled by the archetypal motif of the hostile brothers, Jung wrote, then the approach of the next Platonic month, namely Aquarius, will constellate the problem of the union of opposites. It will then no longer be possible to write off evil as the mere privation of good. Its real existence will have to be recognized. Think of the polarization you see everywhere now: political, ideological, cultural. They are the soil on which the cosmic imperative to integrate what seems irreconcilable. You feel it when you discuss politics at family gatherings and the atmosphere turns tense. You witness it when dialogue between opposite angles breaks down into mutual incomprehension. This reconciliation represents both your greatest dragon and your highest heaven, Saturn and Uranus. And all the planets will dance according to the Aquarius. Jung believed that only through individual consciousness, the individual human being, via his experience of the living spirit, could this integration manifest. It is we who build societies to celebrate the luminaries and spheres and constellations, and we do that knowingly or unknowingly. But the symbolism is there. Mass movements won't save us. Only personal transformation can. Only you can. So know thyself. Are you ready, brave soul, to take up this challenge? What does an Aquarian world look like for you, curious explorer? Freedom, independence, originality, authenticity. These values rise. The Aquarius, as an archetype, is the bearer of humanitarian ideals, scientific progress, and technological innovation. It needs to stop saying this or that as much as possible. It's time to break national, racial, religious, philosophical, ideological, and personal limitations with a vision of universal human brotherhood in mind. Ptolemy described it with elegant simplicity. Aquarius, in its general character, is cold and watery. The front parts are moistening, the middle temperate, and the latter parts productive of wind. Aquarius is thus fluid and moderate, but it also has the power to create movement. Just a hint of what awaits you. In its light aspect, an Aquarian age brings scientific and technological leaps unimaginable to previous generations. The computer or phone on which you're watching this video is an Aquarian manifestation. But that's just the beginning, dear friend. Imagine brain-computer interfaces that translate thought directly into action. Artificial general intelligence that partners with humanity rather than replacing it. Quantum computing that solves previously intractable problems in science, medicine, and engineering. Space habitats that distribute human consciousness beyond our dear Earth. The Aquarian potentiality is already emerging. The growing recognition that our fates are intertwined is the Aquarian consciousness awakening in you. You feel it when distant suffering moves you to action. You participate in it when you think globally while acting locally. You'll see it manifest in new economic systems and world orders that recognize planetary boundaries and human needs as primary constraints. Creativity is unleashed from traditional constraints and fear. That playlist algorithm serving you music from across the world? It is Aquarian. But what awaits may astonish you further. Neural networks co-creating with human artists. Immersive experiences that blur the line between creator and audience. Art forms we cannot yet imagine, born from the marriage of technology and imagination. Evolution toward egalitarianism. The demand for voices previously silenced to be heard speaks to this Aquarian impulse. You witness it in movements blossoming everywhere. The curtains are ready to be drawn back. The Aquarian impulse toward freedom reveals itself in delightfully contradictory ways. We simultaneously demand privacy while broadcasting our innermost thoughts to global audiences. We celebrate individualism while anxiously conforming to ever-shifting social norms. We herald the death of hierarchies while creating elaborate new status systems based on follower counts and engagement metrics. We proclaim the obsolescence of gatekeepers while becoming utterly dependent on algorithms that decide what information reaches our eyes. All of which suggests that perhaps the most Aquarian quality of all is our capacity for spectacular self-contradiction, performed with unwavering conviction. A cosmic joke we're telling ourselves without realizing we're both comedian and audience, punchline and setup, all while the universe watches this improvisational comedy with the patient bemusement of a parent observing a child, insisting they're definitely not tired while falling asleep mid-sentence. In the coming decades, you may see governments embracing other higher forms of democracy, or even other unexpected higher forms, enabling more direct participation through technological means. You may experience economic systems that distribute resources more equitably without sacrificing innovation, A syzygy of old and new, traditional and technological, integration of science and spirituality. Quantum physics and ancient mysticism are finding common ground, a pure Aquarian synthesis. You see early signs in mindfulness research, in psychedelic science, in the growing recognition that consciousness itself may be fundamental to reality rather than an epiphenomenon of matter. Prepare yourself, seeker, for revelations that bridge the material and the numinous in ways we can barely glimpse today. Authenticity will be valued above conformity. The psychological imperative to individuate aligns perfectly with Aquarian values. You feel it in the permission to chart your own spiritual path, rather than following prescribed dogma. Community-based organization replacing top-down control. From blockchain to mutual aid networks, you see this restructuring everywhere. Imagine organizations without hierarchy, where contribution is valued over position. Envision communities that self-govern through consensus. Picture cities redesigned around humans rather than automobiles. But darkness lurks within light, discerning witness. The shadow side manifests as intellectual rigidity masquerading as enlightenment, even, perhaps especially, among those who consider themselves most progressive. You see it when new orthodoxies become as rigid as the ones they replaced. When a part of Uranus goes to Kronos, and a part of Kronos goes to Zeus, that age feeds this age, and this ocean flows into that sea. The shadow manifests when right thinking becomes a prerequisite for belonging. When touching certain established premises becomes socially forbidden. When technology becomes the master rather than the servant. The same networks that connect also constrain. Look at your relationship with your smartphone. Oh, thoughtful one. Does it serve you or do you serve it? Do you make money out of it, or are they making money out of you, dear observer? Now multiply this pattern across society, across centuries, across everything. Think exponentially. Bear with me for a bit. Imagine surveillance so ubiquitous and sophisticated that it shapes behavior without conscious awareness. Orwell not simply shivering in his grave, but performing a full post-mortem breakdance routine, while algorithms decode your desires with uncanny precision, mapping your unconscious yearnings with greater accuracy than your therapist ever could, nudging you toward consumption with the tenderness of a pickpocket who sends you birthday cards afterward, transforming you into a marionette who believes the strings are bracelets, a muppet performing in a theater where fulfillment is always mentioned in the program, but somehow never appears on stage, leaving you with that peculiar modern emptiness, the satisfaction of having ordered precisely what you wanted and the hollow realization that you never actually wanted it at all. Rebellion without purpose, destruction without creation to follow, tearing down without building up. The shadow of revolutionary impulse. You see it when criticism becomes an end in itself rather than a means to improvement. When people turn against each other rather than collaborate. When rejection of the problematic past comes without appreciation for its hard-won wisdom. The shadow is in the emotional detachment, connection without intimacy, information without wisdom, 1,000 friends but no true companions, no person you'd die for. Do you feel it sometimes, dear one? The paradox of being more connected yet more isolated, here with you, loving you, yet sometimes hating you so intensely that the wilderness starts looking like a better option. This shadow threatens to transform the bonds we make with one another into digital transactions and disposable entertainments. Thus depth is converted into breadth, quantity with no quality, body without any soul, collectivism subsuming individuality. The person disappears into the group. Cancel culture at its worst represents this shadow. You witness it when social media mobs destroy lives over momentary transgressions. When belonging requires absolute conformity to group belief. When wrong opinions make one an unperson. Utopian visions enforced through dystopian means. For your own good, becoming justification for control. The road to technological totalitarianism is paved with good intentions as always, so consider, cautious observer, how easily safety becomes surveillance and how seamlessly protection becomes restriction. The most dangerous authority is that which believes itself morally infallible. Rationality worshipped at wisdom's expense, the measurable valued, the immeasurable dismissed, the reduction of human experience to data points and spiritless numbers. This is the ultimate Aquarian shadow, You encounter it when algorithms make life-altering decisions based on patterns without understanding meaning and context, the same way it doesn't understand me and you. When efficiency makes us forget about compassion. When optimization replaces discernment. When short-term profit is chosen over long-term collaboration. Once Aquarian ideas take hold, they resist change. Even while presenting themselves as revolutionary, this represents the central paradox. Revolutionary ideas becoming dogmatic certainties, freedom fighters becoming jailers. The same fixed quality that makes Aquarius steadfast in principles makes it potentially tyrannical when convinced of its rightness. Be vigilant, wise one, against your certainties. Are we there yet? Have you and I entered Aquarius fully, patient explorer? Perhaps not. But evidence surrounds you. The digital revolution pulses with Aquarian energy, a world connected by invisible networks of data, information wanting to be free. Look at your daily life, observant one, and measure how profoundly this information revolution has transformed a single generation. Your smartphone casually accessing knowledge that would make the scholars of Alexandria weep with envy, then promptly burn their library in despair. Your effortless connection with kindred spirits across continents appearing as magical to your ancestors as if you'd pulled a rabbit from a hat, except the rabbit is in Tokyo and the hat is in Buenos Aires. Your capacity to organize, create, and distribute without gatekeepers, seeming as revolutionary to your grandparents as if you'd announced you were personally replacing the government with a committee of enlightened houseplants. Yet you take this sorcery for granted while complaining about battery life, not unlike a god grumbling about the weight of their thunderbolts. Human rights discourse gaining prominence, holistic consciousness expanding, global interconnectedness growing. All reflect Aquarian humanitarianism reaching into your life, conscientious witness. Work transforms before your eyes. Hierarchies flatten. Remote work, freelancing and self-employment rise. Independence valued over security. The corporation no longer promises lifetime employment, and the individual no longer offers lifetime loyalty. The Great Resignation and remote work revolution weren't just pandemic responses, perceptive friend. They were Aquarian values asserting themselves through millions of individual choices like yours. The old compact between employer and employed dissolves, replaced by something more fluid, more autonomous, more uncertain. We become all partners, and all need to contribute for this to make sense. Medicine splits into divergent yet complementary paths. Cutting-edge technology alongside holistic, energy-based approaches. Both seek to transcend current limitations through different means. You may have noticed the growing integration of mindfulness practices into conventional treatment, the research into psychedelics for mental health, and the recognition that nutrition fundamentally shapes brain function. Religious institutions decline while personalized spirituality flourishes. Authority rejected, meaning sought elsewhere. You craft your practice, drawing from everywhere, bound by none. Self-discovery becomes the highest spiritual value. We witness Aquarius stirring, not yet fully awakened. You see its first light breaking over the horizon, attentive watcher, but the full rosy dawn remains ahead. Jung's outlook on your future? Complex, often sobering. He recognized immense dangers in humanity's acquisition of godlike destructive power alongside our persistent psychological immaturity. Think about it. Nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, power outpacing wisdom. Never before has mankind been torn into two halves, Jung observed, and never before was the power of absolute destruction given into the hand of man himself. It is a godlike power that has fallen into human hands. An astute and clear-sighted prophecy, Dr. Jung. Look at the existential challenges facing you. Crisis over crisis. Tariffs, recession, concessions, nuclear proliferation, artificial intelligence racing ahead of ethical frameworks. These are the savage forces of Lucifer unleashed that Jung talked about. The coming decades will require you to face these challenges with unprecedented wisdom and cooperation. By mid-century reflective companion, you may witness coastal cities adapting to rising seas. Massive climate migration reshaping national identities. Artificial intelligence achieving consciousness or convincingly simulating it. Genetic engineering raising fundamental questions about what it means to be human. Governance systems struggling to address planetary-scale problems with nation-state-scale tools. In a 1955 letter, Jung quoted the Sibylline Books regarding Aquarius. Luciferi veres accendit Aquarius acres. Aquarius inflames the savage forces of Lucifer. A warning about destructive potential unleashed during transition. About the shadow side of the revolution. Yet Jung also recognized the potential for revelation amidst confusion. He noted that when the confusion is at its height, a new revelation comes, suggesting the challenges you face might catalyze unprecedented spiritual development. Our apocalyptic epoch, he wrote, contains the seeds of a different, unprecedented and still inconceivable future. Jung elaborated further. The coming new age will be as vastly different from ours as the world of the 19th century was from that of the 20th, with its atomic physics and its psychology of the unconscious. What might this metamorphosis look like for you, dear wandering soul, as you stand at this cosmic crossroads where futures branch like lightning in a storm? Perhaps a radical understanding of consciousness blooming within your mind like a lotus flower, transforming your relationship to all living things from separation to symphony. Perhaps technologies arising that heal rather than exploit the biosphere, turning our clever monkey tools from weapons of planetary destruction into instruments of garden tending on a cosmic scale. Perhaps social structures emerging that balance individual freedom with collective well-being so elegantly that our current political dichotomies will seem as quaint and limited as medieval medicine. Or perhaps, and this would be most Aquarian, something so unprecedented, so beyond our conceptual horizons that our current language cannot articulate it. Just as a medieval peasant could not have comprehended quantum computing or Instagram influencers, though they would certainly have understood the concept of selling one's dignity for attention. Perhaps, on his deathbed, Jung had a vision of Earth 50 years hence, showing devastated regions but not total destruction. A mixed prophecy at best, but one that grants you hope, resilient one. His vision places tremendous responsibility on you as an individual, fellow one. Not governments, not corporations, not religions, you. The Aquarian task is profound inner work, reconciling opposites, developing comprehension of human nature in all its creative and destructive potential. Will the vessel pour fire or water, dear participant in this cosmic drama? The choice may be yours now. So how do you navigate these turbulent waters, intrepid voyager? Jung has some advice. Not passive acceptance of change, but conscious engagement with forces reshaping your world. Marcus Aurelius would agree with that. Neither uncritical embrace nor reactionary rejection of Aquarian energies, but thoughtful discernment. Community need not come at individuality's expense. Indeed, Jung suggests that only through individual consciousness can you contribute meaningfully to collective transformation. This is the magnificent paradox Jung invites you to hold in your consciousness, contemplative one, that the most deeply personal work, the spelunking expedition into your darkest psychological caves, the archaeological dig through layers of your own forgotten traumas, the diplomatic negotiation with parts of yourself you've exiled to the hinterlands of awareness, ultimately serves the most broadly collective aim. For by integrating your own shadow, that repository of all you cannot bear to acknowledge, you reduce the projection of evil onto others and contribute to humanity's maturation, recognizing that we are all mirrors of each other, exchanging energies and moods and ideas and destinies like quantum particles entangled across space-time, converting individual illumination into collective enlightenment with the elegant efficiency of a spiritual power grid that, unlike your local utility company, doesn't charge extra during peak hours of existential crisis. Innovation need not abandon wisdom. You can honor tradition without being bound by it, question authority without rejecting its insights, and embrace the future without orphaning yourself from the past. Perhaps most importantly, Jung reminds you that symbolic death and rebirth accompanying transitions require conscious grieving for what passes away, alongside openness to emerging possibilities. The melancholy he associated with such transitions may be necessary, not to be avoided but fully experienced as you move through it. What are you grieving as the old eon passes, reflective soul? The certainties of childhood, the comforts of familiar patterns, the security of established institutions, the coherence of shared narratives. What potential do you see emerging that gives you hope? New forms of connection, unprecedented access to knowledge, technologies that extend human capability, growing recognition of our interdependence with all life. Your task, courageous navigator, is not to deny either grief or hope, but to hold both, to hold all, to synthesize and synergize them all the best way you know, perpetually. The water-bearer pours forth knowledge, bringing both power and responsibility. The Aquarian Age's quality and direction depends on how you channel available energies towards the goals you set for yourself. Dualities are inherent in Aquarius: revolution and fixity, innovation and dogmatism, community and individuality, rationality and vision. A beautiful mess, if you ask me, with its miraculous challenges and opportunities. Your task isn't to eliminate these tensions, but to hold them consciously, allowing creative interplay to generate new possibilities. Life is a game, and you teach yourself how to play it. Are you a dear observer or a player? Jung's vision suggests the Aquarian Age demands more consciousness from you, not less. You need to summon greater willingness. Shadows lurk within our spirit, waiting to possess us and project themselves through us. Yet the solution was always a better integration of opposing forces. The Ouroboros continues its circling. This problem, Jung insisted, can be solved neither by philosophy, nor by economics, nor by politics, but only by the individual human being, via his experience of the living spirit, whose fire was handed onward into the future. We shall see. Right now, we are moving through the liminal space, waiting for the fireworks. The party is over, yet it almost feels like it just started. Whether already within the new age or approaching its full manifestation, remember, wise witness, that astrological ages provide archetypal patterns and possibilities, not deterministic outcomes. Water flows from the Aquarian vessel, but you determine through your choices and actions where and how it nourishes new life. You are co-creating the transition, with every choice, every thought, every moment of expansion. In Jung's vision, fire might inflame savage forces or become a Pentecostal flame that inspires and illuminates. Which manifestation predominates depends on your willingness, and that of your contemporaries and children and grandchildren, to undertake the inner work that Jung considered essential to human development. Only strong and wise human beings can create good times and a heaven on earth. The vessel tilts now, precariously balanced between cataclysm and revelation, as the liquid, whether Promethean fire that both illuminates and consumes, or purifying water that both cleanses and drowns, begins its inexorable pour from cosmic heights towards an undetermined destination. Perhaps your own heart, perhaps the collective unconscious, perhaps the compost heap of history, where civilizations go to decompose and fertilize what comes next. For the Age of Aquarius represents a profound invitation to greater consciousness, much like being asked to dance by the universe itself at the precise moment you'd convinced yourself you had two left feet. Will you accept, brave soul? Before you answer, this was Irevelato, a human with tools to accelerate his enlightenment, showing you the progress. Until next time, I wish you an extraordinary time.